Hello everyone and welcome to an overview of a map in Company of Heroes 2. So the creator of the map is Opulent Omega and the name of the map is Blood Brothers Part 6 Endgame. As you can guess from the title, it is the last map in the Blood Brothers series. So let's talk about the settings, the features in the map, the starting positions and the layout of the map. So the settings, the recommended settings for this map would be no mod, standard resources, fixed positions and victory point set at 1000 points. Inside the map itself the population cap has been increased to 300, so you can go crazy with infantry, artillery, tanks and whatnot you want to have. The features that are implemented in this map that are a bit interesting, actually there's only one feature in this map, but it is the selling point, so to say. So it's the day-night cycle, and I'll showcase it later and explain better. So the day-night cycle functions in a way that you have 4 minutes of day, then a 2-minute transition to night, and then 4 minutes of night. So you might be asking, okay, what's the purpose of it? Well, when it's night, it's really hard to see. The AI doesn't have problems with seeing. It doesn't limit the sight of your units. It actually makes it harder for you to see during night, like where are the obstacles, where are the buildings and such. Luckily, each of the commanders that whatever you choose will have a flare ability that costs 60 munitions and you can light up the terrain that way in order to see what's happening there. When it's nighttime, you also don't receive any manpower, which means your manpower income is zero. So how is that compensated? Well, the Russian army here has around 800 to 850 manpower when it's day, while the Germans get 450 manpower during day and night. So the explanation for this would be that when it's night, resources come harder to your base. That is basically to say manpower is coming harder to your base because under night the Soviet army might get attacked by, I don't know, Germans that are ambushing them. That's the rationale. The backstory of the map is rather simple. This is a small force of Soviets right here, and they need to stop the Americans from entering the city first, the city of Berlin. Now here are a few catches. First, these Americans aren't exactly, official US army. They are a rogue element of the US army, so whatever they're doing here, they're doing of their own agenda. And while you do have some established contact with High Command won't report this because they're currently allies with the Americans. And having reports that Americans were fighting Soviets is not exactly heartwarming or morale inspiring. So they will try to cover that up. So this is basically history behind history, in a way. Well, let's move on to explain what each player gets. So player 1 gets 1 IS-2 heavy tank and 2 T-34-85s. Player 2, which was me in this case, gets 4 squads of shock troops, and player 3 gets 4 arrangements of heavy artillery, these being the M120, 2 of them, and 2 B4s, providing excellent long-range support. Now, that being covered, I'm going to start so everything starts smooth, and I'll explain the layout of the map. Let's start from your base. It's plain and simple, just like the terrain around it, nothing special. You have a lot of ground to build your structures. The interesting thing here is that you have this passage, underway passage, that your infantry can use. So if you need to get here faster, you can actually do that. But you do need to take into consideration that the enemy can do the same. Moving on, this is the only bridge in the whole area that can connect to this part, and I'll explain the importance of that right now. It's because you have this victory point here and the Americans are here. So let's see the terrain around here. So you have a lot of ruins, some buildings. Mostly the area around the victory point are ruins and destroyed buildings. This will be excellent for infantry combat, or if you want to set up, I don't know, shoot enemy vehicles from this side, because vehicles and tanks will have a harder time maneuvering around it. Let's look at the victory point itself. It is actually well fortified, and I'll actually commend it for it, because you see there's a lot of heavy cover, but there's also enough room for vehicles and tanks to maneuver around. That way the infantry support the vehicles and the vehicles support the infantry. Moving on to this side of the map, you have a rather open field. There are some hedgerows here that might inhibit your sight range, but that's about it. And then you have the Americans. Now let's move on to this part. This part, although not so filled with ruins, actually it is, but you get the point. There's not so much close quarters combat, except when you get into this building. Now this building is something special. Right from the start, you have a welcoming committee in the form of a sniper and a grenadier squad with a light machine gun. But that isn't the point and the importance of this. What is important is the victory point here. And I'll tell you right now, this victory point is hard to capture, easy to defend. Once you eliminate these guys around here, all you need is 2 machine gun teams, a mortar squad, maybe a sniper squad, and some units around here to hold it. I managed to do that during the whole game, so it wasn't a problem. Moving on, the terrain is mixes ruins with some buildings, so there is some close quarters combat mixed with medium range combat. And then you have the Wehrmacht base right here. You can, if you manage to destroy it, obviously it will make things easier. As we can see here, we have some ruins. We also have additional units here. As you can see, they are well positioned and fortified. We have a machine. Now I clicked the unit. You can see here, yep, we have a Tiger tank patrolling down the outskirts of the ruins, so you will need to take that into consideration. This is now this part of the map. You have one long street here, the other one here. Both are, you know, cluttered with various units, mostly Fallschirmjägers, long-range combat squads such as the Jäger squad. In any case, you will have some sort of a challenge while pushing here. Meanwhile, you have a park here that is hiding various units. It has various defensive emplacements, but it does offer, if you have a heavy tank and you manage to take out these hedgerows, it will offer you more open field combat. The main point here would be this building. I mean, it has a lot of space. You can put in machine gun squads. If you have a Raketenwerfer, you can do that. It's more open here. So it will definitely focus on outmaneuvering your foes here and getting the drop on them using, you know, sight and flanking maneuvers. This part of the map doesn't have so much terrain, but what is interesting here are the buildings. As you can see, they are square-like, and there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of space to maneuver with heavy tanks. This will emphasize heavy combat with heavy vehicles. So for example, if someone sends a King Tiger here, you could actually beat them by using the line of sight mechanism in a way that, I don't know, if there's a King Tiger approaching here, you just go around here, shoot him in the back, pull back, and then shoot him from the other side. It's basically like a cat and mouse game in a maze. And here's the Oberkommando West base, and as we can see right now, it's getting darker. And that is the feature I mentioned at the beginning. So it will make it harder for you to see, not for the AI. It doesn't limit your line of sight. And it will drop your manpower rate to 0, as you can see here. See? So if I could enlarge this, which I can, but if you look at here, one of the players, the income is 0. So whatever he has right now, he has right now. And this is the ability I was speaking about. Artillery flares. Flares are fired at the target location, revealing the air. Look at this. Look at... This is the feature I was talking about. And besides providing a new gameplay mechanic for you, that is to say you need to be forced on the defensive with this, it also looks nice. I mean, look at the detail. Look at the lighting. Okay, enough about that. Let's move on to one, let's say, strategic point that I would advise you to capture. Someone said, did you notice that the munitions and fuel points are only on one side of the riverbank? And I said no. So as we can see here, we have 2 munition and 2 fuel points, which are located here. Now this part is tricky to capture because, as you can see, only infantry can go here, no tanks. But the tanks can move on the upper side of the street and give fire support to your infantry. So when you're capturing this, not only will you need to use tanks to, you know, support, but you will also need to use tanks to prevent the enemy tanks from, slaughtering your men down there. Let's see what else we can talk about. Oh yeah, the fourth player for the Soviets. You might not see him, but the fourth player is off map, and as a Soviet he has a different array of abilities, meaning he gets only munitions, but he can't, he gets only munitions, but he can't call in units, he doesn't get manpower or fuel. Basically he's there to support you in a way that he sends in recon planes, he sends in, fear propaganda, bombardment, etc. Overall, as the final map in the Blood Brothers series, I have to say that it is well made. It offers different types of terrain, it offers a fair challenge, it emphasizes cooperative actions, and the fact that, it's a bit asymmetrical in terms how everything is positioned. For example, the munitions and fuel points are usually positioned on a map that, I don't know, two are placed like here, two are placed here, and then both players can capture them and enjoy the same benefits. This actually forces you to be aggressive, because if you really want those fuel points and munitions, you will really need to break your back for it. Other than that, I can actually recommend this map. I played it, it was really entertaining. If you have a computer of lower performance, it might affect the frame rate, because we are talking about a population cap of 300, and as you can see here, this purple player of the Oberkommando West has a lot of units, and this also to notify this player, the AI player cannot build any more units. He can get reinforcements, but that's about it. Well, this has been a map overview for Blood Brothers Part 6 Endgame. I have been Seth Kiparis, your tour guide for this map, and I hope I provided the necessary information at an entertaining and clear pace. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next time.